Hey everyone, welcome back. As you guys probably know, New Zealand went into a snap lockdown as of about 3 weeks ago, and as a result, I had taken a bit of a pause from uploading just because it's a bit of an adjustment for my family and I. Obviously, I have my kids at home with me and therefore I do homeschooling. So generally speaking, uploads are going to be a bit more few and far between during these kinds of periods. So dating in today's day and age is much different than, say, our grandparents or even our parents. Of course, times were different back then in many different scenarios, such as they didn't have the internet, didn't have access to the internet, so that therefore they didn't have online dating, but also changes in values as well. Obviously, our grandparents would have more likely been much more conservative and had different kinds of values. A great example would be that our grandparents would have been more likely to value marriage over an entire lifetime, whereas in the West today, people are a little bit more so-and-so. They may either A, give up on marriage too quickly, or B, give up on it just in time because they're in a bad situation. Obviously, there is a lot of nuance. In both situations, we can take the good and the bad and analyze it per circumstance. Today, I'll be analyzing our dating culture, our online dating culture. I'll be looking at the certain criticisms that I personally have about it and what to look for when it comes to a long-term relationship, if that's what you're interested in, and obviously based on my own personal experience. With social media use, we've also seen a rise in issues like lack of attention span, narcissism and self-focus, more of a reliance on dopamine. So for example, every time you get a like, your brain releases dopamine. Every time we release dopamine, it can become addictive if not kept in check. And whether this has anything to do with social media or whether it's just because culture changes over time, but what we are seeing in our culture today is more of this seize the day YOLO attitude. Everyone wants to live their quote unquote best life, and it's often based within this idea that anything really goes, that you can do whatever you like despite the consequences because you only live once. Even if you look at online platforms like OnlyFans, for example, well, of course, I think you do you and do whatever you can to fill your life up in the best way that you know how. In many circumstances, however, OnlyFans could indeed cheapen how we view our relationships. The same could also be said for Tinder, for example. It's so easy to simply open the app and browse through the catalog and swipe right if that's your prerogative. And the question really comes down to, what is it that we're truly after? Are we after the sense of YOLO, I'm here to have a good time, I'm here to simply release belts of dopamine and celebrate life without any consequence? Or are you rather looking at an opportunity where you can work on your long-term goals and your vision is long-term? Are you the kind of person who would rather make small sacrifices every day now for long-term benefit? It's really important to look at what you value, because that's where you're really going to find that true, authentic connection with another person who may share the same values as you. So in a relationship, we've got compatibility and chemistry, and both of those aspects are really important to nurturing a relationship. Clearly, chemistry is all about that initial physical attraction. It's about polarity. It is about sexual attraction. It serves as a biological imperative even. It has deep roots to who we are fundamentally as human beings, the primal sense of ourselves. But then we also have compatibility, which is where our partner shares the same kinds of values and long-term goals as us. Compatibility is about the bigger picture, the larger vision, and it's about corn growing, which I will brush on very soon. Although I do believe that it can be done over apps like Tinder, I do think it is incredibly difficult to find compatibility with another online. Obviously, when we see people online, we have that first initial attraction, which is fine. That's the natural progression of how relationships develop. But apps like Tinder cheapen the idea of relationships. It's like you're browsing through a catalog and you're picking the next car that you want or the next item of clothing or shoes. I can't help but to think it's like shopping. No doubt people do find love on these websites, but it does make it a little bit harder especially because of the way that our culture has changed with this idea of live your best life, YOLO, do anything you want without taking into consideration consequence. And by all means, if that's how you want to be, then Tinder's probably the right place for you. But this has got more to do with those who want to have those long-lasting, nurturing relationships with another person. I must say that all of my best relationships developed organically, even if that has been online, because I have many people that I connect with authentically online, but I didn't find them for the purpose of finding them, and I'm referring to my friends here, but it just so happened that our friendships would develop in a certain way because we have certain values that we share, we have a bigger vision. So I'll be quickly going through certain different points of how you know you've found your person or what to look for in your person. So in my opinion, I would personally put values above attraction. And this is not to say that attraction is obsolete. It's absolutely vital in a romantic relationship. There are natural biological reasons that human beings experience physical attraction to other people, especially romantically. Attraction is easy. It comes naturally. You don't have to work at it. When you start dating, you can't help but to get those butterflies when you're around your person. You can't help but to gush over them and to feel like the whole world stopped and it's just the both of you. You experience this within the first few months of your relationship, and it's the exciting time. However, a few months later, those feelings of excitement can begin to wane, and it doesn't mean that you're not attracted to your partner still, but it means that you've gotten used to each other. It's become the norm. Those feelings of dopamine and oxytocin begin to level out a little bit. So what keeps your person around? Well, it's going to be shared values. Values are the foundation for long term. They are the foundation for the bigger vision that you both share. If you don't agree on your vision, then it's just not going to work. This also overrides interests. You can both have the same interests, but if you don't share the same values, you're probably going to have a difficult time. Long-term relationships and marriage is hard work, and therefore you're going to need foundations to keep you together. Also, the other thing is that men grow cold and girls grow old, and we all lose our charms in the end. When you love someone and you share those values together, how you view your partner, that never changes. At the start of the video, I mentioned corn growing. Do they grow your corn? This concept was taught to me by Grandfather Whitebear a very long time ago, actually. One of the first things he ever taught me. This concept helped me to navigate my friendships as I had moved through my life. It helped me to step away from people or situations that were toxic. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Do they grow your corn? Do they respect you? Do they understand your boundaries? Are they there to support and nurture you? Would they have your back in the face of adversity? The question, do they grow your corn, is an incredibly self-reflective one, because you begin to look at the overall picture of your relationship. For example, I've been in relationships before with people whom displayed narcissistic characteristics, people who would use gaslighting, for example. When you're in that situation, it's really hard to actually see the situation for what it is, and that's why narcissists do what narcissists do well. For example, they keep people feeling trapped, keep people feeling codependent on them. But when you ask the question, does this person grow my corn? It opens up the world of inquiry. It's also a good idea to ask yourself whether you help that other person grow their corn. Are you being respectful of them? Are you understanding their boundaries? Are you supportive? And I must say, there has been many times where I haven't been that. But when I look at the corn growing concept, it's a good reflection of how I want to be too. The next one is means of communication. I understand the difference between what it's like when communication is really good and when it's not. Communication is what continues to draw the ties between each of you. Without communication, you don't know where each other stand. People change and they grow within relationships, and when you don't make these certain things clear or invite your partner into that space, aka if you don't communicate as you're growing and changing, then your partner's not going to know where they stand with you. Does your partner avoid incredibly heavy topics, or are they open to these kinds of questions? I had a boyfriend a few years ago who would completely avoid any kind of questions that seemed quite sentimental or quite deep. And of course, when you first meet someone, you're not going to want to load them up with a whole bunch of stuff. But for me, personally, it goes back to values again. For me, I'm a sentimental person. I have a lot of depth. For me, relationships matter on a mental, spiritual, physical, and emotional level. So if I'm feeling that the other person isn't so reciprocative to these kinds of sentiments, then I know that they're probably not right for me. I know that many may not agree with this one, but this is one that I find personally. I like to view life as a balance of energies. The balance of the yin and the yang, the balance of the feminine and the masculine, the positive, the negative, the dark, the light, the seen and the unseen. And I like to form relationships with people whom may have a certain kind of energy that I don't. And it's not to say that people can't utilize certain energies in certain different situations to meet their individual needs. For me in a relationship, I know that there are some parts of my energy that complement the other person. And of course, vice versa. So for example, in my relationship with James, there are certain things that he likes to handle or that he feels that he's good at, where he can put his own unique energy into, where I wouldn't be so good at. And when he does those things, it actually increases my attraction to him. So it's this feeling of polarity. I consider myself somewhat a feminine person, and I really enjoy utilizing my feminine energy. That's where I feel comfortable. And so for me, I'm attracted to masculine energy because I feel naturally feminine. And of course, every individual experiences femininity and masculinity to different degrees, but it's where you can find that attraction and that polarity within your partner. That's where that spark comes from, that chemistry. And of course, as I said, while I value values more than chemistry, chemistry is so important as well. I can't tell you where to find your person. You might find them online, and in fact, it's probably your best bet really post-Rona. But these are certain things that you can absolutely look out for as you're navigating this world. If this is something that you value, if you value these long-term nurturing relationships. Anyway, you guys, I hope you have a good day, night, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you guys all again for the next video. Bye!